Semi-apologetic post-it notes that you leave for the person that you love in the morning when you don't really want to talk to them.
Beverly Knight on the radio warning, 9 minutes past 8. Good morning, breakfast. It takes until 10 o'clock and Joe Wiley will be taking over the airwaves.
I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox, in which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me. They were delicious. So sweet. And so cold.
Living with someone else can sometimes feel like one long skirmish into enemy territory. But poetry can provide very useful intelligence into the male mind. This poem by Glyn Maxwell will confirm many women's secret fear that the real passion of her man's life is not her, but 11 men running around a field in shorts.
62nd game of the season for Liverpool. It's a good ball by Harman to McAllister.
There is nothing like the 5 minutes to go. Your lads one up, your lads one down, or the whole thing even.
Oh, goodness me.
How you actually feel, what you truly know, is that your lads are going to do it. So,
Good block.
however many times in the past, the fact is that they didn't.
Go on!
However you screamed and strained, pummeled the floor, looked up and groaned as the Seiko ticked on.
Fowler coming in from the left.
When the ultimate ball is nodded or kicked,
And scored!
the man in the air is you. Your beautiful wife may kell in the corner, yawningly calm and true. But something's going on with you that lasts male life. Love's one thing, but this is the big chief.
Oh, that's poison stuff. Unbelievable.
The secret of domestic bliss is to leave the makeovers for TV.
Despite the piles of books and papers on the kitchen table and the ashtrays and the worrying about your smoking and your drinking and your weight, in spite of your annoyance when I tell you there's a food mark on your tie, in spite of your opinions and the way you make them sound like facts, in spite of your attempts to hog the newspapers by sitting with your elbows on a pile of them, in spite of how you read them in the bath and make them wet, in spite of knowing that it isn't, any of it, going to change. You can be sure I'll still be here when you come back. Because I love you more than anything. And I'm stuck with it. And that is that.
I find it tremendously touching the way that Wendy Cope accepts her lover in all his slobbish glory in that last poem. But I think that level of unconditional love is pretty rare. More of us feel on approval in our relationships, rather like the narrator of this next poem by Charles Bukowski.
I live with a lady and 4 cats. And some days we all get along. Some days I have trouble with one of the cats. Other days I have trouble with 2 of the cats. Other days, 3. Some days I have trouble with all 4 of the cats. And the lady. 10 eyes looking at me. As if I was a dog.
And when it all gets too much, you can always escape to your own parallel universe.
Last Wednesday, it all clicked. You only wanted me for my love and affection, my generosity and my undying faithfulness. To you, my prize-given rosaries meant nothing. My holy relics, merely relics. Begone, O Belial's daughter. I wash my hands of you in holy water. Next year, I will live alone and breed racehorses in the attic.
For me, Sylvia Plath is one of the very few poets who gets the new parent's mixture of wonder and foreboding. She wants to fill her child's eye with colour and ducks. It's such a beautiful image, and yet at the back of her mind, there's always what she calls that dark ceiling without a star.
That's enough now.
That's enough.
You have a lot of yourself.
Your clear eye is the one absolutely beautiful thing. I want to fill it with colour and ducks. The zoo of the new, whose names you meditate. April snowdrop, Indian pipe, little stalk without wrinkle. Pool in which images should be grand and classical. Not this troublous wringing of hands, this dark ceiling without a star.
I remember when this one was little, spending hours stooped over her cot with a mirror to check that she was still breathing, which is why I love this poem by Rosemary Norman, because it makes fun of neurotic parents like me.
Go to sleep, Mum. I won't stop breathing suddenly in the night. Go to sleep. I won't climb out of my cot and tumble downstairs. Mum, I won't swallow the pills the doctor gave you or put hairpins in electric sockets. Just go to sleep. I won't cry when you take me to school and leave me. I'll be happy with other children my own age. Sleep, Mum. Sleep. I won't fall in the pond, play with matches, run under a lorry, or even consider sweets from strangers. No, I won't give you a lot of lip, not like some. I won't sniff glue, fail all my exams, get myself, my girlfriend pregnant. I'll work hard and get a steady, really worthwhile job. I promise I'll go to sleep. I'll never forget to drop in, phone, write. And if I need any milk, I'll yell.
When my little girl falls over, I want to thump the offending item, which is why I love this poem by Vernon Scannell about his revenge on a patch of nettles that sting his son. Scannell used to be a soldier, and he uses lots of military images. He calls the nettles a regiment of spite. But I think his use of military metaphor is his way of reminding us that one day our children are going to have to fight their battles on their own.
My son, aged 3, fell in the nettle bed. Bed seemed a curious name for those green spears, that regiment of spite behind the shed. was no place for rest. With sobs and tears, the boy came seeking comfort, and I saw white blisters beaded on his tender skin. We soothed him till his pain was not so raw. At last he offered us a watery grin. And then I took my bill hook, honed the blade, and went outside and slashed in fury with it till not a nettle in that fierce parade stood upright anymore. And then I lit a funeral pyre to burn the fallen dead. But in 2 weeks, the busy sun had rained, had called up tall recruits behind the shed. My son would often feel sharp wounds again.
The day you realise that you have to let your children go is one of the hardest. Cecil Dane Lewis wrote this poem for his son Sean.
It is 18 years ago, almost to the day. A sunny day with the leaves just turning. The touchline's new rules since I watched you play your first game of football. Then, like a satellite wrenched from its orbit, go drifting away behind a scatter of boys. I can see you walking away from me towards the school with the pathos of a half-fledged thing set free into a wilderness. The gait of one who finds no path where the path should be. That hesitant figure eddying away like a winged seed loosened from its parent stem has something I never quite grasped to convey about nature's give and take. The small, the scorching ordeals which fire one's irresolute clay. I've had worse partings, but none that so gnaws at my mind still. Perhaps it is roughly saying what God alone could perfectly show, how selfhood begins with a walking away, and love is proved in the letting go.
As Blake says, you can't hold on to what was never yours in the first place.
He who binds himself to a joy doth the winged life destroy. But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise.
If you're not lucky enough to have married an orphan, then pay attention to this next poem, which is about the only tactful way of dealing with your in-laws, even in the face of extreme provocation.
A frog croaks in the garden pond outside. Beyond the screen, where you have gone to welcome our guests, I hear the fat voice of my father-in-law. I think of you. Yes, I will pretend his voice is as pure as the cooing of pigeons.
But blood is always thicker than water, isn't it?
Oh, did you make that for me? Oh, it's beautiful.
Sister, you are an alchemist. Base metals into gold you cannot do, but I've seen you turn boredom into joy and make toys from the rubbish.
2, 3. Oh!
Sister, you are an alchemist, but you have not done a very good job with your husband.
It's easy enough for John Hegley to be flippant about family ties, but you should never underestimate their importance. D.H. Lawrence had an intense and difficult relationship with his mother, But in his glorious poem, Piano, you feel almost singed by his sense of loss, not just for his mother, but for his whole childhood. As he says, the glamour of childish days is upon me, and I weep like a child for the past.
Softly, in the dusk, a woman is singing to me, taking me back down the vista of years till I see a child sitting under the piano, in the boom of the tingling strings, and pressing the small poised feet of a mother who smiles as she sings. In spite of myself, the insidious mastery of song betrays me back, till the heart of me weeps to belong to the old Sunday evenings at home, with winter outside and hymns in the cozy parlour, the tinkling piano our guide. And now it is vain for the singer to burst into clamour with the great black piano appassionato. The glamour of my childish days is upon me. My manhood is cast down in the flood of remembrance. I weep like a child for the past.
One of the worst things about being married is just how easy it is to hurt the person that you love. You'd think that after years of living together, you'd have built up a protective layer of indifference, but not at all. You just get better at knowing where to put the knife. This poem, Dear Diary, by Christopher Reid, encapsulates one of those moments of casual cruelty that occur even in the best-kept marriages.
Today, my wife called me a pompous old fart. We were hugging at the time and did not spring apart, though her words were deliberate and struck at my heart. It's a fearsome business, this loving and being loved. Would anyone try it if they hadn't been shoved by a force beyond resistance, velvet-fisted and iron-gloved?
It's when the arguments don't end in hugs that the cracks begin to show.
When I am dead, you'll find it hard, said he, to ever find another man like me. What makes you think, as I suppose you do, I'd ever want another man like you?
Really great poetry has a way of congealing our most liquid and mercurial thoughts forever. For me, Talking in Bed by Philip Larkin is about the defining moment in a relationship when you realise, for the first time perhaps, that physical intimacy and mental communion aren't necessarily the same thing at all, and that a double bed, sadly, can be the loneliest place in the world.
Talking in bed ought to be easiest. Lying together there goes back so far, an emblem of two people being honest. Yet more and more time passes silently. Outside, the wind's incomplete unrest builds and disperses clouds about the sky, and dark towns heap up on the horizon. None of this cares for us. Nothing shows why, at this unique distance from isolation, it becomes still more difficult to find words at once true and kind, or not untrue and not unkind.
If you can't talk to the one you love, you could always try your friends.
They might not need me. Yet they might. I'll let my heart be just in sight. A smile so small as mine might be. Precisely their necessity.
Some marriages only survive because husband and wife have completely separate spheres of influence. It's the times that they're together that's the problem. This poem, Home is the Hunter, is about a wife anticipating the daily disruption of her perfect world with the arrival of her husband from work.
She's watched for his return at each day's evening, his briefcase stuffed as if with deer meat, umbrella a spent spear. 40 years of triumphal entrances, attentive welcomings, end in this gift-loaded, euphoric homecoming. Something near to fear stirs in her. The house has been hers throughout the core of every day, close shelter for her busy morning hours, her recreative afternoons. Now it opens its traitor door, switches allegiance to his clamour, his masterfulness, his more insistent needs. How long had she dug, hoed and planted the suburban flower patch, made it colourful and fragrant for his weekend leisure? Now he comes in with the air of a pioneer, as if her patient garden were wilderness for his first cultivation. And she'll pretend, habits are hard to break, when called on to admire, that everything he grows is magical, as if no million years, but he alone made this summer's rose.
After that poem about a thoroughly dysfunctional marriage, let's have something altogether more inspiring by one of my favourite poets, Robert Graves. In this poem, he compares the durability of human love with the way that plants put out green shoots in the middle of winter, despite the falling snow.
She tells her love while half asleep in the dark hours, with half words whispered low. As earth stirs in her winter sleep and puts out grass and flowers, despite the snow, despite the falling snow.
Domesticity doesn't sound sexy, but D.H. Lawrence, in his wonderfully tender poem Gloire de Dijon, shows that you can live with someone forever and still fancy them. He wrote this poem for Frieda von Richthofen, with whom he had a passionate, stormy, but enduring relationship. She left her husband and children for him in 1912, and they were still together 18 years later when he died.
When she rises in the morning, I linger to watch her. She spreads the bathcloth underneath the window, and the sunbeams catch her glistening white on the shoulders, while down her sides the mellow golden shadow glows as she stoops to the sponge, and her swung breasts sway like full-blown yellow Gloire de Dijon roses. She drips herself with water, and her shoulders glisten as silver. They crumple up like wet and falling roses, and I listen for the sluicing of their rain-dishevelled petals. In the window full of sunlight concentrates her golden shadow fold on fold, until it glows as mellow as the glory roses.
I hope this programme has convinced you that poetry is for the bread and butter moments in life as well as the caviar specials. I think this next poem is the ultimate in comfort food for those of us whose emotional life has reached a plateau. Wendy Cape has managed to subvert the fashionable wisdom that happiness writes white by producing full colour lines about the singular joys of being stuck in a rut.
Hello.
Hi.
If you ask me what's new, I have nothing to say, except that the garden is growing. I had a slight cold, but it's better today. I'm content with the way things are going. Yes, he is the same as he usually is, still eating and sleeping and snoring. I get on with my work, he gets on with his. I know this is all very boring. There was drama enough in my turbulent past. Tears and passion, I've used up a tankful. No news is good news, and long may it last. If nothing much happens, I'm thankful. A happier cabbage you never did see. My vegetable spirits are soaring. If you're after excitement, steer well clear of me. I want to go on being boring. I don't go to parties. Well, what are they for? If you don't need to find a new lover. You drink and you listen and drink a bit more, and you take the next day to recover. Someone to stay home with was all my desire. And now that I've found a safe mooring, I've just one ambition in life. I aspire to go on and on being boring.
More essential poems tomorrow on BBC Two, When Love Grows Cold, at 7:30.
We're launching a nationwide search to find a poem for Britain. Could you write the New Jerusalem? If so, check out our website at bbc.co.uk/poetry, or you can write to us at BBC Poetry Competition, PO Box 38859, London W12 6WG.